Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Combo Breaker 99. I'm back with another video. Make sure y'all subscribe. Back with some boxing talk here, man. Over the past few days, I've just been kind of looking through, different videos, and I came across this brand new interview a few days ago. Keith Thurman and Ray Flores, and I just kind of want to talk about a few points in this interview. And as you can see, I got this mock matchup right here. It's made a fantasy matchup between Keith Thurman and Terrence Crawford, because that's one of the fights that I want to talk about. And Ray Flores asked him about that fight. And first off, man, I just got to say again, man, just going back and listening to Keith Thurman in this interview to really sum up how he feels about boxing, it really feels like right now it's going to be hard for him to get back where he needs to be. It sounds like with all the talk that he wants is just kind of like big money fights now, and it's not really a big hard work and dedication type sport for him where he can climb back up from where he's fallen and then go from there. He kind of feels like he's still at this top of the mountain, and everything he deserves is a big money fight from here. That's kind of how he feels. Yeah, granted, he's been boxing since he was 19, like he said. He turned pro when he was 19, but sometimes there's times when guys, they got to go back to the drawing boards. They got to humble themselves and figure out where they stand. And just so many things in this interview, was a lot of just kind of seemed like backpedaling talk. I kind of got the feeling like he's not as interested in the Terrence Crawford fight as he said he would be. Ray Flores straight up asked him, is that a fight he wants? He said, hey, give him the contract. If Bud sends him the contract, he'll sign it. And they ask him, and Ray asked him, next fight, would you want it as the next fight? He's kind of like, nah, maybe not like a next fight, because Crawford always shows up in shape. Crawford always comes to really fight. And then he says, he's not a big fan of his belt. But two things right there. Well, first of all, he's always said in the past that, Terrence Crawford isn't a full, legit, recognized welterweight in his eyes. So, that would be a good tune-up fight for you then, right? It would be a good start fight for you, right away to get back in the ring. So why now is Terrence Crawford a big threat that he needs to get prepared for? He said in the past, Terrence Crawford ain't a real welterweight. He needs to beat somebody recognizable. He needs to be, he needs to put some names on his record. Well, go ahead and take that chance with Terrence Crawford. If Terrence Crawford hasn't beat anybody recognizable, he's been in the division for a while now. He's been in it for a couple years, and he's held this belt. Why not go ahead and take it? That would go ahead and be a good start fight for you to get you back into the mix with the Manny fight. Because right now, I don't really hear too many people honestly screaming for a Manny rematch between Keith Thurman. He always feels like he's just ready to get back in there with him. But again, that's kind of contradictory right there, because it's like, okay, if you could get right back in with the Manny fight after losing a close fight and, suffering, you did get hit with some pretty big shots. You did, just be real, even though it was a split decision. You did get some hands put on you by Manny. So why would you feel comfortable enough to step right back in there with Manny Pacquiao all of a sudden if he is truly the number one guy? In your eyes, if he's number one, then why would you get straight back in there with him? But you need a tune-up for a guy like Terrence Crawford, who's not really a legit welterweight or a legit welterweight champion in your eye. And then also the WBO belt. Now, also in this interview, he stated that the WBO belt wasn't really a belt that he liked. Well, okay, certain sanctioning bodies, they do have rules that you don't really care for. They have certain things that you don't like to follow. But Keith Thurman in the past, I've always known him as the guy who wanted all the belts, the guy who wanted to be undisputed, the guy who wanted to be the one and only champion in his division. So why all of a sudden is this belt not really legit to you? He said that in another interview. I think it was like Octon Barak radio show, where he said that, Terrence Crawford's belt doesn't mean anything. It's the lowest of the belts. Well, granted, it is compared to Errol Spence's belts, because his holds a little bit more weight than who held on to the belts. But Terrence Crawford still has a belt, and to me, that would be the perfect starting point for Keith Thurman to get back into, the welterweight mix. If he wants something like a softer fight or a tune-up fight to prepare him to get for a Spence or Manny Pacquiao fight, then go ahead and take on Terrence Crawford. Why let Terrence Crawford get bigger than he is if you feel like he ain't bigger than he is, So there's just so many different things he was saying here that were kind of contradicting themselves right there in the interview, to me, in my opinion, because it still sounds like he doesn't have a full-on welterweight plan as Errol Spence does. When Errol Spence did his Ray Flores interview, he was just straight up. He was like, yo, I'm Danny Garcia. We're going to try to get that fight, hopefully, in September, October. And then hopefully that leads to something like a Terrence Crawford or a Manny Pacquiao fight. Any of the guys he mentions, any of the guys can get it that he mentions. He's never really backpedaling on, oh, this guy's not legit. This guy's not worth anything. I just kind of feel like Keith Thurman, right now, his blueprint as far as the coming back, I'm not really sure he can come back and even get one belt, because in one breath he says, the WBO belt's a belt he don't like. And then you got Manny Pacquiao over here with the WBA belt who might not want to fight Keith Thurman again. And then you got Errol Spence with two belts, the WBC and IBF. And Errol Spence said he's not giving you the chance that you didn't give him, So, you didn't give him a chance, so why should he give you a chance? And speaking of that, too, in the interview, Keith Thurman said he kind of stood by not giving Errol Spence a chance whenever Errol Spence wanted to crack at the belt, because he said, hey, Floyd Mayweather didn't give me a chance. Well, Floyd Mayweather, that's a totally different animal right there, man. Like, Keith Thurman he should not even mention Floyd Mayweather in the same breath as his career. You know what I mean? Because, like, when Floyd fought Maidana, when he was fighting Robert Guerrero, towards the end of his career, when he was doing those last few fights on his Showtime deal, even Canelo, he was in a different stage of his career, Even after he beat those guys and Keith Thurman wanted to fight him, Floyd had the choice. He could have said, okay, do I want to fight him? Okay, I can. But if I don't, I'm still good. My resume is still legit. But you not granting Errol Spence a fight, that's a totally different thing, because you still got stuff to prove. You still got stuff to prove, and you want to be undisputed. Even whenever Errol Spence got the belt from Kell Brook, you should have took that fight right then, so you could have been undisputed if you could beat him. You know what I mean? So there were two different things, because Floyd's career was already established. He's already beaten the Canelos, the De La Hoyas, the Ricky Hattons, already beat Manny Pacquiao, Maidana 2 times. So he was already in a set part of his career. So he can pick and choose if he wants. But Keith Thurman, you still couldn't pick and choose against guys like Errol Spence. You still need guys like Errol Spence on your record. Like you got Sean Porter and Danny Garcia. You still need a guy like Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence on your record to be proven as the best welterweight. And, of course, to be undisputed. So, overall, man, just kind of listening to the interview, I'm still kind of clueless as to what he wants, out of his career now. Ever since, the injuries came along and ever since he lost the belts. It just kind of seems like he's kind of having trouble to find that stepping stone again. And that's just my honest opinion. It just kind of seems like he doesn't know where to start. Like, for me, a smart place to start would be with Dennis Ugas. That would tell him where he's at as a fighter as far as his level right now. He needs to humble himself and take on a guy like Ugas. Forget the Manny rematch right now. If he could fight one more time this year, if boxing's able to start back around November or so, he needs to get in there with Ugas. Be real and just fight Ugas. Because Ugas had his last fight in February, so I'm sure he'll be ready to return after 8 or 9 months off. So it would be a good fight. That would tell him where he's at physically and as far as mentally. And still a good, tough matchup. If he can beat somebody like him, then you take that next step to a belt holder like Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford, I'm sure he would like to break this PBC ice. Like I always say, breaking the PBC ice against somebody like Keith Thurman. It would be a good, solid matchup for both guys. Possibly pay-per-view, because it would be kind of a cross-promotional thing. You'd have a top-ranked PBC fighter, the former champion versus the WBO champion. So I would pay to see that fight. I would pay to see a Crawford-Thurman fight, because, it would be a big main event, honestly, for the welterweight division. So first off, he just need to come back against Ugas as like a televised PBC fight, get that on. If he beats him, then you fight Terrence Crawford. Because remember, Terrence Crawford still holds a lot of weight. He's one of the best fighters on Top Rank, and he still is considered number 1 pound for pound in the world. So beating Terrence Crawford, whether you feel he's the best welterweight, it still stands for something because he is considered number one pound for pound as far as skill wise. So you could just get in the ring with the number one skilled fighter in the world and beat him. That stands for a lot. That would put you back into a position to fight Manny Pacquiao then. Because right now, like I said, I don't want to see him fight Manny Pacquiao. I don't want to see a Manny rematch. But the way he's saying, like, he wants this Manny rematch right now sounds more like, I want a paycheck, you know? Of course, you did give Manny a good fight, you know, but you still lost, you know, in a lot of people's eyes, you still lost, and they feel like Manny can move on from here because Manny is still in that established career mode where he don't need to prove himself. He could skate by in a fight, he can knock somebody out in a fight, and not have to grant him a rematch. It don't matter, you know. He's good like that now. But Keith still has a lot to prove if he wants to step back in and prove he's one of the better welterweights. But yeah, man, that's really all I got on this one. Like I said, I just kind of want to go back and talk about I just want to go back and kind of give you my thoughts on this interview and what I think Keith should do. Like, if Keith really feels like, all in all, if Keith really feels like Terrence Crawford is not one of the most recognizable welterweights, then he needs to go ahead and get him out of the way now. Then take his belt now, and take away Spence's opportunity for a Terrence Crawford fight. You know what I mean? That's what it all comes down. Because also, before I go, he also said that, you know, Errol Spence was priority now. You know, where did that come from? You know, now he feels like Errol Spence is priority over Terrence Crawford. But I'm like, yo, either one of them should be able to get it, because either one of these guys hold weight, because a Crawford-Spence fight is 50-50. So they both hold a lot of weight in that fight. So whoever you can get to first, that's who you need to get to, you know? And like I said, if you get Crawford out of the way, that'll put you back into the mix with Spence. Then Spence will give you a chance because you have a belt and you prove that you beat the best fighter in the world. But yeah, all that talk I just said, I know it makes too much sense. You know, it just makes too much sense for a lot of boxers now. But that's how it should really go down. You know, Thurman needs to go back to the drawing board, at least down to a B-level fighter, to prove where he's at, because the talk is always there, but the actions need to be there as well. So that's the blueprint that he needs when he comes back into boxing, when boxing returns. But let me know in the comment section what y'all think. You know, what do y'all think about a Crawford Thurman fight? That's something I might break down to as well. I like it better than the Crawford Kell Brook fight. Honestly, that fight makes more sense. You know, especially I think it makes more money for both of these guys. You know, if Crawford beats somebody like Keith Thurman, then hey, that'll definitely boost up his welterweight resume a bit. And after that, he can say, yo, I got the Thurman before you did, Spence, you know. So that would be an awesome matchup. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I'll be back with some more boxing videos as well, like always. And yeah, like I said, I'm trying to focus more on this welterweight division because we got a lot of stuff going on, and hopefully we can start getting these fights when boxing returns. But yeah, that's all I got on this, guys. Combo Breaker 99. Make sure y'all subscribe. I'm out. Peace.